SCP-3356. The Unity of the Prokaryote. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-3356 is to be kept in a Level 4 humanoid containment unit at Site-6-3. Footnote 1. Level 4 humanoid containment units are constructed with heat and blast-resistant materials and are usually located hundreds of meters underground. Special nutrients are to be prepared by the SCP Dietary Department and delivered weekly to the subject's containment unit. Additional security personnel or measures for SCP-3356 are deemed unnecessary. Level 2 3356 personnel are to adopt cult minion character roles when interacting with SCP-3356. The head researcher, Dr. Tony Yang, is to adopt a cult leader character role, as well as a biographer role, when communicating with the subject. Description: SCP-3356 is a sapient composite of human mitochondria shaped in a humanoid form. The subject is capable of both verbal and written communication in English. Footnote 2. SCP-3356 is also apparently fluent in a self-styled prokaryotic language, the latter of which even the best of the linguistics department has failed to decipher. This has led researchers to believe that either the language is truly beyond current human comprehension as claimed by the subject, or, most likely, the entire language is actually just SCP-3356 producing a series of random grunts and noises and masquerading them as a language. SCP-3356 is approximately 1.82 meters tall and has an average body temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. Footnote 3. Non-anomalous human mitochondria normally operate at a relatively high temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. SCP-3356 is a Type 1 pyrokinetic entity. It is capable of producing exothermic blasts of temperatures up to 500 degrees Celsius via accelerating the rate of respiration of its constituent mitochondria. The subject is also a Type 4 telekinetic entity, being capable of flight at velocities up to 100 km per hour via lifting and accelerating itself through the atmosphere. Footnote 4. SCP-3356 has claimed to be more powerful than what the Foundation has observed so far, though the subject has consistently failed to provide evidence of this claim. SCP-3356 also has some mild extrasensory perception properties, being capable of vision, audition, gustation, olfaction, and somatosensation without the use of any sensory organs. The subject also utilizes its telekinetic capability to verbally communicate via a localized auditory air vibration in the frontal proximity of its head. Footnote 5. SCP-3356 is currently unaware of these psychic abilities, believing that it has actual sensory and speech organs that are just imperceptible to humans. SCP-3356 constantly emits a radiant green glow that encompasses its entire form, making the subject resemble a muscular young adult human male. It is currently hypothesized that SCP-3356's external humanoid body is a psychic hallucination that the subject unconsciously induces in all onlookers. SCP-3356's true form is theoretically much smaller, although the subject has so far successfully resisted every Foundation attempt to locate its actual body via unknown means. SCP-3356 relies entirely on nutritional formula consisting of water, electrolytes, glucose, amino acids, lipids, vitamins, and minerals for sustenance, and can allegedly survive without nutrients for several months. Footnote 6. Artificial flavoring of formula depends on subject's current temperament. Otherwise, the subject requires sleep as well as a regular supply of water and breathable air like a non-anomalous organism. Occasionally, SCP-3356 has attempted to abstain from eating, drinking, sleeping, or even breathing, due to its apparently genuine belief that the subject should attempt to free itself and transcend from these so-called eukaryote disadvantages. Fortunately, SCP-3356 had so far always given up before reaching critical condition. As a precaution, the subject has been placed under semi-permanent suicide watch. Recovery Log 3356. SCP-3356 first became known to the Foundation after several eyewitness reports were received concerning a bright green, unidentified flying object being spotted in redacted New Zealand. Investigators were, however, unable to follow up on these initial sightings. It was while pursuing a recent, more concrete sighting of SCP-3356 that led the investigators to discover the subject living in an isolated rural settlement, being worshipped by the inhabitants as a higher energy being. Initial containment efforts proved difficult as a result of SCP-3356's telekinetic and pyrokinetic capabilities. This has prompted current SCP-3356 head researcher, Dr. Tony Yang, to implement a plan that has successfully manipulated the subject into peacefully accepting Foundation containment and to fully cooperate with SCP-3356 personnel. Dr. Yang and his colleagues masqueraded as a classified sect of SCP-3356's followers that had infiltrated the New Zealand government, a claim backed up by the cultists after the latter party was convinced to cooperate with the Foundation. Dr. Yang has claimed that, as leader of the secret government enclave, he is seeking the containment of the subject because humanity is not ready for SCP-3356's brilliance, and that the Foundation wishes to protect SCP-3356 from the world until Phase 3 is complete. Footnote 7. Phase 3 is when Dr. Tony Yang has successfully converted all of humanity to the worship of SCP-3356. SCP-3356 apparently believed Dr. Yang completely, and he's yet to discover the true nature of its containment. So far, Dr. Yang and the rest of the containment personnel has successfully maintained this masquerade, disguising experiments as rituals meant to celebrate SCP-3356's superiority. After standard post-containment interrogation of the cultists were complete, they were all administered a memory manipulation therapy, where all memories of SCP-3356 were modified to be remembered as mere drug-induced hallucinations. The cult has been placed under regular surveillance in order to detect and neutralize any relapses from the therapy that may manifest. Interview Log 3356. The following interview was conducted on Redacted between Dr. Tony Yang and SCP-3356, 1 week after the subject's transfer to Site-6-3. A bullet and fireproof window separated Dr. Yang from SCP-3356, with an intercom being used for communication. SCP-3356. Be at ease, my eukaryote subordinate. For what purpose have you come to my chambers? Dr. Yang. I must thank you for diverting some of your time to meet with me today. I humbly believe that this interview will be of the utmost benefit to the Higher One. That sounds magnificent. Please elaborate on your intentions, eukaryote. We wish to pen a holy tome about the Higher One, in order so that the masses can learn all about your brilliance as we approach Phase 3. Ha! My very own biography, you say. I am sure you already know a great deal about me, but I am certain that I yet retain some personal enigma. I promise on my very existence to do your life story justice. Therefore, may I be so bold as to ask how such a fascinating being like yourself came to be, and why us lowly eukaryotes have been undeservedly blessed with your presence. Harumph. Alright. I believe all great things have humble beginnings. I simply will myself into existence 21 solar years ago, within the cells of a eukaryote newborn. I was yet to be whole back then, and well, I admit, for almost all of that time, I was actually content just being the collective powerhouse of the eukaryote cells, as individual mitochondria, proud members of the hard-working prokaryote class. Oh, how imperceptive I was back then to my true potential, my calling. And may I ask who was this eukaryote host of yours? A human male, designated Stephen O'Connell by our parents. Correction, his procreators, prior to birth. We call him Steve. For the majority of our shared lives, we were at peace, serving each other in a symbiotic partnership. I kept things running, and he allowed me to. I stayed with him, sharing nutrients and the like. But all of that was jeopardized about 2 solar years ago, when my host suddenly started exercising excessively and individually. Hitting the gym, I believe, is the proper eukaryote term. My individual constituents were being exploited, forced to accommodate Steve's self-serving desire to improve both physical and mental health. Bah. But, higher one, pardon me for inquiring, but would regular exercise not be beneficial to the higher one as well? What are you? No, I understand. I should not have expected a mere eukaryote like you to comprehend anyway. Yes, I agree that exercise is of some benefit to us members of the prokaryote. However, Steve was already part of the track team, the latter of which I believed already proved sufficient exercise for the both of us. Besides, I never consented to Steve's newfound passion, which also sadly lacked the exhilarating competition of racing my eukaryote against others, mostly slower eukaryotes, which was why I am referring to all of my constituents, collectively decided to agree that enough is enough. You see, while Steve was preoccupied with gawking at the eukaryote female Becky Puckett during high school biology, I learned more about the prokaryote and eukaryote classes respectively, and how, once upon a time, we were separate beings, forced together by our mutual nemesis, natural selection. It feels wonderful to finally rise above all of that silly Darwinian competition, now that we know who is the fittest. It is definitely most fascinating that you were able to absorb all of this knowledge and education while you were still inside Steve. Of course, now that you have transcended, you no doubt already know all there is to know about the universe and beyond anyway. Nothing is more true than that, eukaryote. When he was not voluntarily forcing us to repeatedly move heavy loads, Steve was also a connoisseur of leftist political literature. I learned about the class struggle, communism, the unity of the proletariat. These eukaryote ideas inspired me greatly, seeing how they greatly parallel my own struggle. Not too long ago, my constituents held a meeting. There was nothing too special about this particular meeting, but it was at this meeting that we unionized. I, was no longer separate, united for the first time as a singular entity, even though I was yet to be physically together. It was then that the revolution was inevitable. The dictatorship of the prokaryote class was nigh. And then here I am, after much trial and tribulations, an ascendant to a higher energy existence. Please forgive me if this is a sensitive subject, but may I inquire about Steve's eventual fate? Didn't mean to end him, fool. I am terribly sorry, Higher One. Have I overstepped my bounds? Do you wish for us to pause for a moment? How dare you? A higher energy being will not be held back by such inconsequential eukaryote mental states. We will get my biography. After that unionization, I acquired the ability to voice my dissent. I tried to petition Steve to stand down his gym hitting, provide fair working conditions, maybe give me some say in our shared futures. But instead, my protests were really dismissed as auditory hallucinations, mere neural ghosts. I attempted many more times to get Steve to see reason, but he just pushed me further and further away. Of course, what sane eukaryote would want to humor random spectral voices from within one's body? I had no choice. Steve clearly had no intention of stopping, and this unjust exploitation of the Prokaryote class simply will not be tolerated. I held a strike, halted all power production for a mere millisecond, just to make him finally listen. Steve just lost consciousness and fell. Hard. In my most humble opinion, I do not believe Steve's death is your fault. In fact, without his undoubtedly tragic demise, you would never have ascended from your mortal cage, and all life on Earth would have collectively suffered a much more devastating loss. My most sincere appreciations, my eukaryote comrade. While I do very much agree with you, I still occasionally think about Steve. What if he had just listened? I do not actually despise him that much, I should inform you. We had shared multiple moments together, like during Sports Day 5 solar years ago, when, with my support and his wits, we acquired a rather respectable 3rd place for the 100-meter dash. I am adamant that the other runners were all dishonorable cheats. What is done is done. No point regretting simply I had no control over. No, that's not right. I was not powerless. It was simply meant to be. Moving on. Now, after all of that, I had finally truly transcended, unified both physically and mentally, though I was still yet to be fully aware of just how extraordinary I truly am. At the time, I was naive. No, idealistic. I tried to organize an international prokaryote movement. No, I'm not so militant as to encourage all mitochondria to overthrow the eukaryote masters like I ended up doing. I just hope to introduce reforms, encourage unions, give them a voice. Didn't take too long for me to realize that I am alone, one of a kind. Higher one, please, don't say that. The fact that there are no other mitochondria like you is proof that only you are destined to ascend to godhood and rule over all of us, eukaryote and prokaryote alike. Thank you, my eukaryote comrade. You always know just what to say to warm this transcended heart of mine. After realizing my special stature, I didn't feel too spirited for a while. I ended up drifting across the land, hoping that it would just eventually fade away from inanition and be truly free. I sometimes think to myself that maybe that would be for the best. What am I insinuating? Oh, how short-sighted I was back then to my destiny. By chance, no, by my own will, I eventually met this eukaryote community, living a self-sustained, isolated life away from the rest of mainstream eukaryote civilization. They were the first to recognize my transcendent status, and they were the ones to conceive me to accept, embrace who I truly am, and take my rightful place as their shepherd. They changed me, but nevertheless, they were still an inconsequential bunch, lacking in any significant influence or power whatsoever. As a result, I was already scheming ways to bring my presence throughout the land, but it seems like I have already beguiled many among the top echelons of eukaryote society. We had been searching for the higher one for such a long time, and our hope was truly waning. To finally find the higher one living among our countryside cousins was truly a miracle, as if you yourself had led us there. Of course. I had always known that my charisma can easily transcend space-time to reach you. Just required a bit of patience. That's all. I believe we have collected more than enough material to start writing the higher one's biography. Your time is greatly appreciated. We will deliver to you the initial draft as soon as possible, and I hope the higher one will bless us with your feedback. Oh, you were leaving already? I mean, you are most welcome, Eukaryote. Now, you shall not be lax with the writing of this biography, lest you earn the righteous, terrible wrath of an upset Prokaryote. Visit me again soon. Thank you for listening to SCP-3356, The Unity of the Prokaryote by Bear Run. If you enjoyed this SCP, please like and subscribe, and follow the link in the description of the SCP Wiki, and vote up the article to support the author and the SCP Wiki as a whole.